to the Town of Harwich Golf Committee. We call the meeting to order. We have Roman as our invited guest, and Jeff, invited guest. Any public comments? Questions? Mary?
Hi, I'm Mary Sullivan from Cranberry Valley Women's Golf Association, 18-holers president. Just a couple of things, small stuff, Roman. We're talking like pocket change. One of the ladies mentioned, as you may or may not know, we've been really promoting the green teas. And so one of the ladies mentioned that some of the red teas that are combination red-green don't have markers that indicate that they're green. They might be red-silver, but for instance, hole number 1 is a red-silver marker, and there is no green marker there. Now, I know because I've been playing long enough that I'm going to, tee off from there. But it'd be nice that if they were all properly marked that way, everybody knows where they're supposed to go, whether it's a red, green, red, silver, etc.
Sure, thanks for the feedback there. We'll make sure we have those marked.
All right, thank you. One of the things we noticed one of the last times we were out on the course is that, and I know I had talked to Sean about this, I think last year, and at that point in time he said we had oodles of rakes, but we're still seeing some holes where there were very few rakes. We went out and played one day where the rakes weren't even on some of the bunkers. And Sean mentioned that they would possibly be able to add additional rakes to some of the very large bunkers because pace of play is impacted if the rake is way over there and I've got my balls way back here. So
Sure, I've heard that feedback, and I had our assistant superintendent, Rob, go around and check all the bunkers, make sure they were adequately raked, I believe the other day. So was this comment since like Friday? I think Friday I had Rob go around the golf course and check the bunkers, make sure they were adequately raked.
I didn't notice it as much today, but I was only in the bunker one time, I'm happy to say. So,
Right, so I'm aware of that situation, and I believe it's been fixed. I'll double check though.
Okay.
Because I did get that feedback last Friday. We found a rake in the woods broken, and don't ask me what's happening with the rakes, but yes, we have plenty of rakes, and we'll make sure they're at the bunkers.
sounds like somebody having trouble getting out of the trap.
Yeah.
Broken rakes.
Not the first time.
Signs for them? You can come. Oh, well, okay. The other thing that we have noticed just on some of the par threes, there used to be boxes for the broken tees, just in terms of kind of like an aesthetic and kind of a cleanup thing. You break a tee, you put it in that broken tee box, so it just kind of keeps the tee boxes clean.
Okay.
And then this one is really a question, and that is, I know that you tend to run reports on overflow.
Yes.
How is that going this year? Because I had one of our players come up to me and say she had been on overflow 6 times this year, and so is that becoming problematic, I guess is the question.
If you don't mind, I was going to address that during my report.
That's fine.
So I've got some data on that. in my
Okay,
report.
awesome. Did you want to talk about the tees? Yeah, just Karen's going to jump up a second. Oh, signage, got it, okay. So the other thing is about the green tees. So because of the fact that they are sometimes off to the side, et cetera, whether or not there could be any type of signage put out on the course to kind of direct people to where the tee boxes are.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it.
That's good feedback about the green tees. We'll check it out.
All right, thank you.
You all received the minutes of our June 13th meeting. If anybody would like to approve the minutes or have any questions about them?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then we go on to new business before we hear from the different reports. Since it is July, we start our new year, and this is the time to vote for chairperson, vice chair, and clerk. really, there is a very short job description for the chairperson, and it's in the committee handbook. There is nothing for the vice chair or the clerk, except if the chair is not in attendance for the meeting, the vice chair would take over. If the vice chair and chair are not present, the clerk would take over the meeting. So I think that we can create, once we have offices in place, if we want to create some type of job description for different, whether it's the vice chair or the clerk, I have a very strong feeling that every single member of the golf committee needs to be involved in what is going on in the club and what we can do as a committee to make things better for our town and for our members. So it's not just the leadership group, it's all of us together. Okay? So, would anybody like to nominate?
Sure. I'd like to nominate Martha Duffy to be the chair of our committee. Can I get anyone to second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I guess I have to say aye.
Well, the majority has it, so.
Vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Carol Fuller to be vice chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone not in favor? Okay. Carol, did you say aye?
Thank you.
Clerk? I'd like to volunteer.
Anyone?
Sure, I'll volunteer.
Will you, Steve?
Sure.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I nominate Steve to be clerk.
Second.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Director's report.
Okay, great. So if anybody from the public wants to follow along, I do have the a brief outline posted on the golf committee website. Just some brief stuff. I start with the events that we've held over the past month since we met last. New England PGA Junior Tour, we had 54 kids on June 19th. On June 20th, we had 72 golfers for our Women's 9-Hole Golf Association Invitational. One of our big initiatives of the year, the 24th of June, is the Drive, Chip, and Putt Qualifier. Just wanted to take a minute to recognize everybody there because that's the only Drive, Chip, and Putt qualifier on the entire. And we were faced with some really challenging weather conditions, but persevered, and we ended up with a nice break in the weather right on time. So I'd like to recognize the New England PGA coordinator, Brianna, our staff, and thank you to our resident volunteers, Brian DeRocher, Craig Nickerson, Sue Kleinis, Jan Doda, and John Sanderson. There was a nice article in the Chronicle about it as well. The Chronicle covered the event, took some pictures, so very nice. And it was a success. The volunteers were out before the event with upside-down rakes trying to squeegee off the greens. And sure enough, we had all the kids showed up, and it was a big success. On the June 26th, we had the Mass Golf Public Links Qualifier, 104 golfers. And I'm proud to announce that our own Mike Sarajan, our executive assistant, was one of the qualifiers. So that was very nice. +2 was the low score, so the course held up very well to the play, and everybody shot 78 and under qualified. So please root on Mike if you see him in the tournament proper at Old Scotland Links. And then on the 11th of July, we had the Cape Cod Junior Golf Association, and on that's a Tuesday afternoon, where we had 44 golfers participate in that one. As far as the junior programs go, our two big junior programs that are in mid-season form right now are the First Tee program. That's Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. All 3 sessions are filled with 18 participants, which is the maximum, and so that's going strong. I want to give appreciation to our recently retired Monomoy Middle School band teacher, Gordon Napier. He became a First Tee certified coach, and he's the lead instructor of our program. And then also thank you to Bob Miller and his instructor team for supporting the First Tee. Whenever they need to, they give up their instruction tee. They give up the access to the chipping greens according to the schedule that the First Tee has. So I appreciate their cooperation. And then our other big program is the PGA Junior League, which is run by our head pro, Dick Fagan. That is on Monday and Thursdays after 5 p.m., so it's late in the day. We have 31 participants there, and it's a great program. It's like the Little League golf model for golf, and Little League baseball model for golf. And our Cranberry Valley team, from what I hear, is playing Ocean's Edge this Thursday for the Cape League Championship. So root on, if you see Dick or any of the kids in the Cranberry Valley jerseys, root them on, please. Upcoming, we have the Club Championship on August 5th and 6th. The next big shotgun event we have is day 2 of the Solheim Cup on the 15th of August. And then I have a few other items to go over, like the HVAC system in the clubhouse. I don't know if you've been in the clubhouse lately, you may have noticed. So the system failed on the last week of June, which is like the worst timing possible, because not only is it so hot, end of the fiscal year, right before the 4th of July holiday, it's hard to get quotes, it's hard to get signatures on contracts. So that was scheduled for replacement in FY26, but it turns out it came up early. So I want to recognize Sean Libby, our town facility manager, for a quick response. He got the 3 quotes that we needed for the procurement very quickly. He got it to town administration, who drew up a contract, and they got us a contractor in right away. And I think today was their 4th day of the installation, so we will have air conditioning in the clubhouse on the non-restaurant side of the clubhouse. Right, the restaurant still does have AC, but on the non-restaurant side by the end of the week. And then, yep.
Sorry, this is Karen Doucette, member at the club. On the HVAC, so how much is that, and how did it get, how are we funding it?
Pro Shop Revolving Fund.
Excuse me?
The Pro Shop Revolving Fund?
And that was, can I ask what the cost of that was?
Yeah, I don't have the exact number. It was 21,000 and change.
And that only covers the pro shop side? Because the other side is hot as hell, too. It's hot, too.
Yeah, so, so it's got mini split units in, on the pro shop side, on the clubhouse side, the hallway, and then the restaurant has a nice brand new mini split on their side that they've been having a little problems with, but we fixed that as well.
Oh,
The
good.
far eastern side of the room is on an old system, and so I asked Sean Libby, our facility manager, I told him to keep the money in the budget for FY26 for the replacement there. So that the funds will now get kicked over to address that issue.
Awesome, thank you.
Karen, I'm going to ask invited guests, please, to not interrupt anybody who is presenting their report until the end of the meeting. If there are questions, I think that is an appropriate time to ask. Thank you.
Okay, great, I'll continue. We did send out our annual member satisfaction survey. What I plan to do is, Martha, I'll request an agenda item for next month's meeting where we'll present those results, okay? But one thing that I can response is, at the time I wrote this, we had 355 responses. And last year, the survey only had 212, so a lot more feedback. And then I do want to recognize the Women's 18-Hole Golf Association for their Monomoy girls golf team benefit. Their committee sent me the details. On July 11th, they had 73 members participate. 6 members of the girls golf team participated, and the school principal from Monomoy participated in raising $1,500 for the Lady Sharks golf team.
That was excellent.
Great event.
Thank you.
And then, as I mentioned, I do have a report on overflow. So, we are right now in the midsummer peak tea time demand. And, there is a lot of chatter about the overflow list. Obviously, nobody ever likes to be on it. And, so I did run the report for this week just to kind of give everybody a taste of where we're at. It's not huge. I know the weekends there's a lot of demand. Anytime you're on the list, it's not fun. But just for example, I kind of ran the report for this week. On Monday, we had 4 groups that were not accommodated. One group, we continue to see mistakes in requests. One group requested it all in the non-member block, so we reached out to them and made them a tea time. And then there were 3 other tea time people that just didn't get tea times. One of them had 9.4 points. So I mean, it's a point issue in that case. As for today, we only had 1 group on overflow, and they requested a tea time during the league block. Tomorrow we had 5 groups on overflow, and that was all affected by the league block. They were requests all during sweeps. And then on Thursday, 3 twosomes, all with 5 to 8 points, were on overflow also. So it's not a huge number. It's kind of appropriate where we've been the last few years. I'm sure on Friday and Saturday there'll be more people overflowed. But the system is working. There's a lot of demand on it right now. But I think the chatter is probably greater than the reality. It's a handful of people a day.
Roman, can you remind us what the split is of the day, the time that is blocked for members versus non-members?
Now, off the top of my head, I can't. It's on the website, though. It's on our website under member resources.
Yep, okay.
I thought it was like 60/40.
Oh, you mean, the percent? I thought you meant the exact
Yeah,
times.
no, not the.
Oh, okay,
exact,
yeah, gotcha.
Yeah,
So weekend is 60/40. Weekdays is about 70/30, but the leagues affect that, so the leagues are getting a few more tee times these days. So, overall, we're seeing about 75% of tee times going to the pass holders. But, Wednesdays, it's over 80% with the sweeps playing. The Women's Association has more tee times this year, and so do the other leagues as well. So it's probably more league times are dominating it for the most part.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Roman,
Yes.
do you have a guideline as to what you would use to change that allocation? If the overflow goes to 12, 15 people a day, would you change the allocation, or do you just?
Well, I mean, so not on the spot. I mean, I think we would change it, annually possibly. But that distribution has been working. The problem is, I mean, like I just said, if there's 75% of the tee times are going to the pass holders, it's only leaving 25% for greens fees, and we are down. I think we're trending to be down in greens fees pretty significantly this year, based on the distribution to the pass holders. So it'd all be part of that off-season analysis. Okay. And then, real fast, so we did some filming for website marketing purposes on Thursday, July 6th. It was a beautiful day, so one of our contracted workers called Black Market Productions showed up, and they got member testimonials, golfer testimonials. They did drone footage, all for a off-season website rebuild. So we'll have some nice new footage for the website that will debut for next season. I wanted to recognize Bob Kraus for donating artwork for the clubhouse. He's a local, antique picker, I guess. He goes to yard sales and such, and just for fun, and he likes to donate artwork. So you'll see 2 new beautifully framed golf-themed paintings up in the clubhouse. And then I sent everybody the link to the article, a nice article that was in Northeast Golf Magazine about golf in Curry Valley. And then one last thing on golf course conditions and staff. So we are in the full operations mode. We're fully booked every single day these days. This is a very challenging year with the heat, humidity, rain, lightning every day, it seems like. It requires constant coordination between our maintenance operations staff on restrictions, pulling golfers off the golf course, staff off the golf course, putting them back on. So there's a lot going on, it seems like on a daily basis. And not to mention, it's also very challenging conditions for the turf with all the moisture, heat, and humidity. We actually went 3 weeks without even turning on our irrigation system. It's so moist out there. And then that's unheard of. Sean had never heard of doing that, but that's just what was required. And then we've got disease out there like dollar spot gray leaf that you'll see our guys on the spray rigs a lot more often just to kind of combat that. And so, I just want to express how pleased I am with the golf conditions and the overall golf experience that we're offering our customers, and thank the maintenance and operations entire staff for their efforts, expertise, perseverance through these dog days of summer, creating a top-notch golf experience for our customers. I think our staff is doing a great job on these really difficult days. So I wanted to send some extra appreciation in their way.
I'm amazed, Roman, how great the golf course looks in mid-July with all the fog and humidity.
We'll see how it holds up.
And I know August is your most challenging month, but it looks great right now.
Great. We'll see how it holds up. I mean, if the challenging conditions do continue, we'll see how it holds up. Our staff's putting forward the best efforts.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Martha, it's amazing. Every summer provides a different challenge, I know. It's just going to be the case in New England. But I was listening to one of the meteorologists from Boston, and they were ranking, the wettest Julys. And I guess 2021 was particularly wet, but I don't recall it, myself. This feels like the wettest I've ever seen, and I think it's remarkable what your staff has been able to do. So, your kudos to them are well-deserved. It's been amazing.
I have an abutting lawn to the golf course. There's no comparison. It is night and day. So what those guys are doing out there is pretty amazing.
Great. Thanks for recognition. It's appreciated. They are working hard. A lot of expertise, too. That's all I had, Martha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to share with you that I received a phone call from Sandy Hall, who was chairperson of the review of the town charter committee, and invited the golf committee, any members, myself included, to their meeting on August 8th. They meet the second Tuesday of the month at 5 o'clock. And so if anybody would like to just go and observe, or we were welcome to ask questions about our charter. And I think it was very gracious of her to step out and ask the golf committee if they wanted to participate. I don't know if that's because we have talked loud enough. What is the charter? So
And is that here at the town hall?
it's here, August 8th.
Is this part of the charter revision? Is this part of
Yes,
the charter revision?
it is.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Yes, Jeff.
Thank you. Hi, Jeff Hamler here from the Select Board and your liaison and the liaison for the Charter Bylaw Review Committee. When I met with your incredible committee several weeks ago, there was some discussion regarding the charter and how sometimes it seemed a little bit complicated, or it would conflict with some language and some of the things that you all were trying to do. So I reached out to Sandy and I said, I think it would be a great idea because we are going to be looking at our charter and we're going to be looking at our bylaws. And what's most important for the town as a whole is to all be on the same page. So I would urge you all that, and I believe you were the one who asked about the charter and maybe there was some discrepancies or confusion. So it might be a good idea to have some questions ready for them. But they are an amazing group as well, and they have a heavy lift ahead of them going forward. So the more committees that can give their input, and you all should do a fine job at that. I think we'll be well on our way to a good charter bylaw review. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. As you certainly probably noticed from the agenda for this evening, and my making a very strong trying to get all of us to share the expertise that we have. I know at one time I was head of a private school for 37 years, and I would tell everybody I knew everything. Well, I'm at a point in my life where I don't know everything. And I accept the chair position, but I accept it because I know that you all will bring your talents and expertise to this committee, because I cannot do it by myself. So I have made it very clear in this agenda when I extended what people would like to discuss on the agenda for this evening. 3 of our members will take over on those different issues, because everybody here has such wonderful talents and backgrounds that don't be afraid to share them, okay? So the first part we're going to do is I'm going to ask Michelle, I've given her some reports on, we've talked about the budget. We're trying to get a better grasp of what the budget is, how we can support Roman in his job, and how we can share with the select committee what the issues are at the golf course and how they can be supportive to us. So.
Thanks, Barbara. Yeah, I think a question that, even before you talk about the budget, I guess a question that I think we should want to have a perspective on as a committee is, what are the goals of the course? And is it about recreation for residents first and financial issues second? Or is it financial first, because at least for the numbers that we've seen from different reports, it appears the golf course contributes about $500,000 a year back to the town's budget. And so is that the primary goal, and then recreation for town residents is second? And what other goals might there be that folks on our committee have? Because to me, I think that's then something I believe we would want to align with the select board, because policies should then flow from that. If it's, we want the course to make $1 million a year, well, then we have to raise rates, we have to probably have more public time, less members possibly, or charge members 3 times as much. I mean, there's many ways we can get numbers to get to different outcomes. But for me, the conversation needs to start with, what are we trying to solve for? What are our goals? I think when that there will be budget discussions, Roman, I'm going to guess in like September, probably September, October.
Yeah, we usually get our budget message from the select board in November. I haven't even received their calendar yet for the budget messages, but normally the budget message from the select board in November, and then the budget message from the town administrator around the same time.
And what is a budget message?
It tells, it's direction from the select board on their expectations for our budget.
And you would have presented to the select, or we as a committee with you would have gone to the select board at
No.
that point with a recommendation?
No, that all happens in March, when there's an open discussion on the budget that's presented, but the message from the select board is a starting point for the budget.
Okay, all right. So I can remember last year's conversation, I think it was September, October, where we talked about rates, and and that was kind of maybe, I guess, in preparation and as you were starting to think about the budget for the next year.
Could you explain that a little more simply, because I'm a little mixed up in terms of timing here. You're getting a message, Nate, from the select board first.
Maybe Jeff could mention, I don't know, I don't know if the select board has a calendar yet for the budget.
Thank you, Ron.
Normally, the select board creates a calendar.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Sure.
Through you?
Of course.
The select board does not deal with the budget development. The town administrator and his department heads begin creating a budget. I can't give you an exact date on that, but it is around September. And then there are deadlines that need to be met, where then the town administrator will supply the budget, to the proposed budget, to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen will accept, reject, make alterations, changes, modifications, suggestions, and then it will go to FinCom. So it is really not the purview of this committee to build a budget. And I just want to make sure that, after reading the agenda, that while I think it's amazing that you want to start looking at 23 and 24, the budget that's before you right now, that we're in right now, and get your arms around that to understand that budget, so that you're able to then make recommendations for the next budget upon Roman's request. So I would hate for all of you to go and in your meetings and at home, spend a ton of time working on the next budget when I don't even get to see it
Yeah.
before he sees it first, okay? So I hope that answered part of the question in terms of order and procedure.
Roman, maybe you could just, if I look at that, one of the documents you handed us, there's a 2024 TA and a 24 BOS, which I assume is town administrator and board of selectmen.
Yes,
The budget
that
increase.
document was from town meeting, from the town meeting warrant,
Right,
yes.
if we were to resurrect what happened in 2024, the budget, were you given a target by the town administrator as to what he expected to see in your budget? Is that what drives it, or do
Well,
you
so-
drive him?
I mean, in general, I know that the board of selectmen, or the select board usually comes out with a calendar for the budget deadlines, I believe in
Right.
September. Where it doesn't really kick in to me is until I receive the budget messages that are created by the town administrator and by the select board.
Right, but
And normally, and that dictates what they expect to see.
if they said, we only want the budget to go up 2%.
Yeah.
Hypothetical. Do you take that and just march with that, or do you have an opportunity to push back and say, I really need 5%, or I need 7%, or I need 9%? Do you have any input into the process that drives the ultimate budget that you're shackled with?
Yes, I do. So in the past few years, due to the increase in minimum wage, the last couple of years, yeah, we have exceeded the requirement, or the request from the select board and the request from the town administrator in the rates, in the salaries and wages line. And we had to justify that. That was because of the raise in minimum wage. And then what he'll specifically ask for is an enhancement of services. If there's any type of enhancement of services we're looking for, that as well. So yes, you do have a chance to plead your case if needed.
Excuse, Jeff, just a quick question. I appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, of course.
And while we may not be, as a committee, directly involved in the budget meetings, and eventually that goes to the TA and to the board, to the select board and to the FinCom. I would like to think that a review by this committee, discussions, detailed review with recommendations would be a piece of valuable input for all three of those entities, for the TA, for the FinCom, and for the select board. We may not be voting as a finite policy setting or a budget setting function, but again, I reference my own personal experience. When I go to the town meeting, the very first thing I look at when they're bringing up something to discuss is what did the other group say? You know, it's in the document, it says, the select board voted 6-0 for this, and yay, and the FinCom voted 7-0 nay. Oh, okay, there needs to be some understanding and discussion. Not that either one is the deciding factor, but it's valuable input. I would like to think that with this board and this committee, that the select board, the FinCom, the TA would value the golf committee's opinion and take it into consideration, knowing that we do not have the final say and vote. That's fine. The time and effort to review it and make recommendations, I would think that would be a valuable piece of information for those three entities who are the decision makers to have. And I think that's what we're really looking for is just, hey, let us be heard, and
Sure.
The select board has the ultimate say. We understand that, but we'd like to at least be
Well,
heard.
If I may, I don't think I could have said it better myself. And that's exactly what your role is. And we weigh heavily, we weigh your input through Roman and through the chair to me. Very important. It's very important. So you are just, I apologize, Steve, if I gave you the impression that you all don't have anything to do with the budget at all. I'm just trying to steer you all down the right road of don't start making a budget until Roman directs you to take a look at what he and the TA have created, and then you all can weigh in. And if I may, did that answer?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, if I may. This is from the charge. Simply stated, break even with overheads being fully allocated and the cost for future investment needs taken into account. That is the basic, simple way that the budget is looked at. Now, correct. You have an all-star here. This man is an all-star. He knows exactly what he's doing. He can forecast, he sees what needs to be done, and he will bring those recommendations to the next budget. And then that's when all of you get to weigh in and say, well, what about this? What about this? And what about that?
So, Jim, just, I guess, we've had a few conversations here already about what is the overhead. So, and I'm not sure Roman fully understands everything that's ultimately allocated. It's over $500,000. So there are pieces that you say, well, I know there's retirement expenses and there's insurance and there's parts of,
Right.
you know, like Roman doesn't have a CFO, but the town
Right.
has a finance
Right.
department, part of that's allocated. So we understand that there are pieces of things, but I think some clarity around that, because like when the budget that Roman shared with us that Steve was just referencing, it doesn't have a revenue line. It only has expenses, and those are direct expenses. So we have no idea what the total expenses are. I see $1.7 million for 2024 in direct expenses. I guess I can guess that it's somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000 of overhead. So that means, I guess, the course then has to make $2.3 million next year. And so when it comes to policy setting, I see us as a committee having probably more thoughtful impact in policy setting around member levels Do we want to cap members? How much do we want to charge members? How much do we want to charge Harwich residents versus non-residents?
Right.
We've been having more and more junior residents, but we're giving them big discounts. Can we afford to do that if the town says you have to make $2.5 million next year?
So let's take it one bite at a time, because I hear exactly what you're saying. Keep in mind, you as a committee do not make policy. The select board is
We
the,
make recommendations on
Correct.
policy,
But-
that's our role.
100%. I just want to make clear, when you say we're setting policy,
Yes.
it's important that we all speak the same language, and I'm certainly not. I'm learning as I'm going as well. With respect to the budget, if there is surplus, let's just assume there's a $500,000 surplus. That then becomes the financial director's decision, along with the Board of Selectmen, where that money goes. That is not in the purview of this committee. And it's not in the purview of the committee to ask where it goes. You can find out where it goes, but it's not something that can be requested through me to go get.
I guess the question is, does the town expect a certain level of surplus? Does the town need a certain level of surplus? Otherwise, taxes are going up or something else is being cut?
So that's a great question, and I don't have the answer to that question. I would ask Roman, over the history, say the last 5 years, are we operating in a surplus?
Yes, we are, and what normally happens is they'll, it's usually $300,000 to $400,000 approximately. There's been up years and down years, but normally what our goal is to reach the finance director's revenue forecast for us. So normally the town administrator and the finance director will have a conversation with me, and we'll forecast revenues for the upcoming year. And so we really try to achieve those revenue forecasting goals.
Jeff,
I think we had one more.
okay, go ahead,
Sorry.
Michelle. No,
Nope, go
You
ahead.
sure? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
but that's been a point of contention for a number of years, and I think Steve mentioned it, or has an item on this interfund transfer. I agree, we don't need to know why, but the budget that's there does not include any indirect expenses.
Mhm.
Pensions, medical expenses, all that stuff. And if you count, if you're in, I come from a financial background in IT, and all those indirect costs are real costs, and they should get allocated to the golf course, but for some reason, they don't. It's sort of a big mystery. I mean, the 1.7 includes a lot of things, but it doesn't include any of the direct costs. And if you're saying the charter is to break even, and then I don't see how you can break even if you're not counting apples and oranges. You're counting expenses and salary and wages, but there's a whole
Yeah.
significant component of expenses that aren't being allocated, or maybe
We
they're
don't have
being allocated,
visibility.
but I don't know how they're doing it.
Yeah, because you said break even with all overheads being taken into
Yeah.
account, but it sounds like you're saying, but not the surplus. So what is the overhead then? Can we get a breakout between, in this $500,000 that's going back to the town, some of it are indirect overhead costs, and some of it is surplus, I'm supposing? Because in the end, the whole thing seems to come to zero every year, and it gets sucked up back to the town for the two buckets.
Right.
But again, I think it's helpful for us as a committee in thinking about what to recommend as policy, to have a good idea around what are the costs the course has to cover, so that we don't recommend, hey, Roman, we want you to cut greens fees for or cut cart fees for town residents to zero because we don't think it's fair. And then Roman says, well, then I got a $50,000 budget problem. We'll just let the surplus cover it.
And I don't mean to jump on in the agenda, but the one statement that you made that I guess I would have an issue with is that we don't have a right to know the details of where the money is being allocated.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
You have a right to know. The request flies in the face of the oath you all took when you sit in these chairs. And I can,
The request,
the request to find out, if I read the agenda correctly, and we're jumping ahead, and is that okay with you, Madam Chair, to
Yes.
move forward a little bit in this?
Sure.
Inter-fund transfers, right?
Right.
Is that what you're
Yes.
requesting
Yes.
information of? That is not in the purview of this committee. It doesn't have anything to do with what this committee is charged with. So, this committee is not authorized to ask for that. Not my rule. This is not my rule, right?
whose rule is it?
It's the town charter's rule. That's the charter. So now, the only way, and I did quite a bit of work before this meeting to find out how you could be authorized to ask. You have to remove yourself from the committee and become a private citizen again.
Okay.
That's it.
With
You're-
regards to the indirect overhead,
Mhm.
since it is required that the course break even and cover that part, do we have a right to understand with more clarity what is the indirect overhead
Mhm.
that we have to break even and cover?
I think that's a really good question. And I'll answer it this way, and then I'm going to reserve the right to backpedal as fast as I possibly can, and then we'll get you all better information. But as Roman builds his budget, which includes maintenance, it includes overhead, it includes staffing, it includes future projections for things that you think you're going to need going forward, right? That becomes the zero, right? All revenue needs to lead to zero. Anything that gets above zero, we'll call surplus. And then we will be happy about surplus. Now, there could be legal fees. There could be things that are split between Cranberry Valley and some other entity of Harwich. And I don't know whether or not Harwich breaks that down into specific departments. And Cranberry Valley used $73,200 of legal this year. I don't know that answer, hence the reason I said,
Yep.
and I've become a very efficient backpedaler in the last 7 weeks since I've been sitting in the select board chair. But I can certainly go and ask these questions. But I think the overarching theme for me is Roman builds the budget, projects what he's going to need, whether it's irrigation system overhaul or whatever it may be. That becomes the zero. Anything above zero, the finance director is the determining factor with the town administrator and the select board of where that surplus goes. And I don't want y'all to get bogged down in the surplus. Where you would want to get bogged down is if Roman's projections didn't meet our basic needs. Then we would really have a problem. But for 5 years, we've been 300,000 plus in surplus. And then let me finish. The question that I would, the question I would present then is, with respect to giving it back to Cranberry Valley, I think is what I'm hearing, like, why can't it stay? And that's what your committee and Roman can have discussions about. Well, we'd like to allocate in the future budget $200,000 for a redo of something.
I think that, well, for me, the question isn't so much can this committee have a fund that is growing by hundreds of thousands a year?
Good.
For me, it's more around policy recommendation for things like membership. We just talked about overflow.
Mhm.
So, do we ever want to have a resident have overflow? It's not a private club. The answer has to be yes.
Mhm.
But at what rate?
Right.
Do we want our residents to have a more significant discount than non-residents? Just how you could just say, so just cut the residents then. Immediately, you're
Sure.
you're going,
I
so
hear you.
for me, it's those type of questions.
Mhm.
How much does the town need from this course financially?
Mhm.
Because then maybe the split isn't 70, it can't be 70-30. So it's not so much a willy-nilly, like we just want to sit here and be the good humor man shooting quarters
Right,
off our
right,
belt.
right,
No,
right.
we
Right.
need to understand this if we're going to add any value here. or not? Because otherwise, like, what are we here for? And
Sure.
how do we make any recommendations? Because almost every recommendation is going to have a financial impact.
100%. So and ask some of these questions and try to get the answers for you. I don't believe I'm going to get them, to be honest with you. And this is municipality, right? This is what I'm learning about the difference between private business and public municipality business is it's very, very, very different. Very different. I think, Steve, did you have something else?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. I find it somewhat ironic, or I guess it might be a better adjective, that if we don't meet the revenue projections, we have a big problem. But if we exceed the revenue projections, so meet the revenue projections and supply a surplus, that's not an issue. That's goodness, and the FinCom can do whatever they want, and there's no obligation to tell us what the heck they're doing, just for informational purposes, that again, to Michelle's point, directly involves everything that we do in terms of rate and fees discussions and membership criteria and policy. Policy recommendations. We're not the policy governing board, but we are a board that is recommending policy to the decision makers. We can't do that if we don't know what's going on.
No.
And to try to say, oh, if you come up short, you're in trouble, that's gonna be an issue. If you come up on the positive side, isn't that wonderful? We don't care about you, we don't wanna hear from you, we're not gonna tell you anything about it. Great job, see you later. No, you can't play both sides of the fence. Either we're gonna be directly involved and understand, and again, these are not fictitious numbers, these are not numbers that were just pulled out of the air. I understand it's a municipal budget, but you have to be open for auditing, and these numbers that are in the annual report are not rounded numbers, they're down to the individual dollar. No finance person is going to not pay attention to math. They used math to figure out what the interfund transfers were. So that means they know what the detailed itemization was, because that's what they used to come up with the numbers. So to say that information is not available is simply not correct.
I didn't say it wasn't available at all.
You can't have
You
it.
said it's not available to the
What I
committee.
said
ask for
was, what I said was, the committee's purview does not fall under the committee's purview. And I'm simply trying to let you all know that while you're building your budget, as Roman will direct you and say, hey, throw in analyze it, give me recommendations. I'm just trying to get across to you that you don't need to know, as this committee, where that surplus goes to make your recommendations. That's all I'm saying.
So as long as we make recommendations that keep ourselves at a break-even, covering direct and indirect costs, but don't worry about surplus,
Correct.
then those recommendations should be considered by the town.
100%. And if they're not, there will be a reason for that. And as you all make your recommendations with Roman, as Roman is building the budget with the town administrator, and you bring in your recommendations, Roman may come back and say, this can happen, this can happen, and this can happen. But I can't play in the hypothetical. All I can tell you is that when building your budget, don't worry about the surplus and where the surplus goes. That's all. I'm not saying you don't have a right to see it. Okay. I'm not saying no one can tell you, no one has the ability to tell you where it went. I do have to find out, though, as you asked, there's some indirect costs. I don't know where those go. That's for our finance director to figure out, and our town administrator to administer with the finance director where those funds go.
Karen, I know that you were representing the golf committee on the finance committee. Do you have anything to add to that?
Now's the right time, so no worries.
Do you want to sit here so I don't have to turn around and try to do both? Is that okay? Turning around, hi, Jeff, nice to meet you.
All right, Karen Doucette, member at the club, but also I just spent 2 years on the finance committee.
Absolutely.
And the last year on the capital outlay committee meeting. And so I do have some points, but you guys talked about a lot of stuff, so bear with me here. I would say, first of all, Steve, you made a comment about the FinCom and them making decisions and stuff like that. We got to be clear about terms. It's not FinCom. FinCom is is a committee under similar rules that every other committee's on. And that means we give our recommendations, the budget of this town, all the way through the budget process up to annual town meeting, to the select board, including the TA, I would say, because we spend a lot of time with him. So FinCom's not, we're looking at it at a level that we can provide recommendations. We're not saying golf committee should do, we are providing recommendations to people, that's all. Capital Outlay Committee started this year. We did a really good job. Our base, from our chair and all the folks on there, we started very early this year because last year was a cluster. It was, last fiscal year was bad. It started very late, pushed us to the wall in terms of the annual town meeting in May, believe it or not. It takes from September to May to get this right for this town. It's a big budget, 85, I don't know how many millions of dollars it is.
Right there.
So I would say, and I would recommend very strongly from a golf committee standpoint, what you can do from a standpoint of recommendations is get them to, and discuss them before September. You've got a month. You can do work after that, don't get me wrong. I mean, certainly stuff can go to Roman, but you have to get that in now. You have to have it very clear and very concise and and then prioritize, because you're not gonna get everything. You gotta do it like you just gotta do it that way. It's the way it goes. There'll be capital outlay meetings that Roman and Sean will come to with the TA, again, because they all report up to the TA, and they will share what they want from a capital outlay position as 50K or more. So if it's a project that's 50K or more, it'll go through the capital outlay. If it's not, it won't. That doesn't mean you guys can't discuss those that cost $49,000. I'm not saying you should discuss everything, Roman, just suggesting. But I'm just trying to, you guys gotta understand sort of the rules so that you can get something done. Because if you don't understand it, if you don't understand the timeline, so I appreciate getting to the point about what is that timeline. The timeline isn't November. It might be when Joe or the TA engages with the department heads. But we certainly start this process in September, no doubt about it. And if you don't have something on the capital plan, it's not gonna be, you gotta have it and the details worked out. I mean, it's not simply just saying, I want a new 3-hole golf, whatever. You don't just go and say that. You gotta have some thought behind it. Roman has to have justification, all this stuff, right?
Can I jump in?
Absolutely.
And that also has to be voted on and brought through your chair.
Yeah, so you guys should vote,
That's not an
prioritize, and
independent-
bring them.
Right.
You're, good point,
Yeah.
excellent point.
Karen, didn't they, at the past town meeting, didn't they formalize the capital budget for the next 5 years?
Yeah, so there's a capital budget,
Yep,
which is this fiscal year, and there's a capital plan
plan, right.
for the next 5 years. The plan is
Living thing.
living. So every single
I was under the
year,
impression you couldn't add to it.
no, you can add and subtract, but you have to get it like a 2/3 vote at town meeting or something like that in order to do that. So, and that's gonna happen every year. I don't care what anybody says. There's no way that thing's gonna remain constant. There's no way you can know that. You can't know it. So the budget in the first year is the key. That's what's approved. Okay? The next 4 years are, Roman's point, they were planning on a new HVAC system, which was the right thing to do. You put that on the plan, you do whatever, and they just needed it sooner, so they have to figure a different way to pay for that. I mean, stuff happens, we know that, so thankfully it wasn't that big of a deal, really. It's not that, it's 20 grand, but it's not, in the context of the town, it's not that much money. But anyway, so I had a lot of things I wanted to say. So from the standpoint of numbers around, I'd love to see the overflow for the weekend Roman, I know you didn't share that, but I think the weekend's got to be impossible. It's got to, those numbers have to be shared. I think from a leadership standpoint, you guys need to start analyzing that now. We have, how many total members?
I think current was 1330 something, 1331.
Right, so close to 1,400, so, or 1,300, let's say.
Each bringing in different revenue.
Each one brings in revenue, but again, this goes back to Michelle's question about goals. So what's the goals? Because if it's Harwich, if it's satisfaction of members and players, because I don't want it to just be members, then you gotta consider that, right? I just did a quick Google search. 450 is what's recommended for an 18 members is what's recommended, and that's on the high end, 300 to 450 for a public course. I mean, it's like 1,000 more people that we have, and you go, great, it brings in another $80,000 or whatever the hell it is every year, but you gotta consider that, what are the goals? If the goals are revenue, and it's to continue to have a surplus, by the way, which I have the numbers on, because Roman shared those with us at one point, the last 2 years, it's climbing, and that's, our membership has been climbing over the past 5 years, you know, like,
Can I just question you? See, I think that's been a point of contention for us,
Yep.
I don't feel that's really a surplus, because it doesn't include indirect costs.
Indirect expenses
well,
aren't.
and then, so indirect costs for a team of 12 people, what is it?
I don't
That's what
know.
we need to know, though,
That's
Jeff.
why
mean,
we're saying,
in
how
business,
do we manage this?
In
We gotta-
business, you come up with
This
a
is the
loaded
point, though,
rate.
Jeff, so if you said
Right.
it's $100,000 to cover the,
OPEB
200
and-
grand to cover the indirect costs, so you take that out of the surplus, we're still pushing, 400 grand in surplus. And so then if you say, well, if your goal is to be membership satisfaction driven also, because we know we have to meet the revenue, we know that, then you might say, then why the heck are we, why do we keep pushing that back
Right,
to
right,
other groups
right,
when
right,
we could,
right.
and keep increasing rates?
Sure.
We're gonna increase rates every year until somebody stops it.
Yep.
And there's gotta be a good reason for it. And so, these are all things that I have in my
Sure.
mind, and I know what we're up against in terms of
You do.
town leadership.
Yeah,
I know
sure,
that. So
sure.
it's not like somebody's gonna say, oh, yeah, okay, you guys just take that money back. Nobody's
Mm-hmm.
gonna say that, because they're expecting it. And this goes back to, well, what are they expecting? Are they
Mm-hmm.
expecting, let's say they said, after indirect costs, and we knew what that number was, they want 200-300 grand to put towards other groups, because there's other teams, mind you, so this is on defense of the town, like, there's other teams who don't have the revenue
Yeah, they don't have the
ability,
opportunity.
so
Right.
you gotta
Adjust
say,
the
okay, we're gonna do our part, what's our part?
What's our part? Sure.
And
Sure.
where does it end? Because then you can say, okay, if I work within these limits for all these costs plus the added surplus, then I know what my boundaries are in terms of whatever from a,
So, to your point, I'm gonna go and try to find out the indirect costs that are associated directly to the golf course.
yes.
Yes, that's,
Right.
that's the question I
like
think we're
I
asking.
can't go and find
Yeah.
out.
And then we can say that's the surplus.
Sure.
We're not
And-
asking
and-
you to tell us where that went as this committee.
And-
We as
right.
residents might be curious, but that's not our role. So to the
Right.
point Karen just made though, this kind of like logical, what's the goal before you can solve for the numbers
Sure.
part? Is it a reasonable request, in your opinion, as our liaison, for this committee to say, we want to align on what we think the goals of this, of what the course should be, and then we want to meet with the select board to make sure we're aligned on that, or is that not somehow acceptable?
I-
Because it seems crazy to me. How do we know that we're doing?
I think they have to come
what
to
the
this
town
board and
wants.
tell them
Well,
what,
you
the goals
as
are.
a committee
Need to vote on,
need to
align
figure
on.
out
Yes,
what you're asking to vote on. Then that gets put to a vote. Then the chair calls me and says, more specific than what you just asked.
yes.
Here's what our goals for Cranberry Valley Golf Course here's what our committee think the goals for Cranberry Valley Golf Course should look like, right? And then I'll have a conversation with the chair and say, I think that's something that we can present to the board, the select board, and get you an answer. I do want to be careful, though, because we have somebody over here who reports to the town administrator and is an employee,
Right.
Yes.
okay?
That's,
So we have to be mindful that, I wrote this down because I need to say it properly, because and it's good to see that your scratch looks like mine. He's the director of the golf course,
yes.
okay? We all. When the director of the golf course wants to seek public opinion, he goes to this committee. For this committee to then go and seek public opinion, as this committee is not the public, right?
Can I just correct you one, not
Sure.
correct, but add
Sure,
to
sure.
that? So Martha's really the person who speaks with Roman
Correct,
directly.
correct.
Right.
We know that,
We
right?
got that.
Like,
Yes.
after this
We know that.
past year, we all know that.
Yes.
Martha goes to Roman, and you guys, as a committee, can talk. If he's here and you're talking about something he wants to chime in, fine, and he'll hear what you have to say. But from the standpoint of saying, this is our list of 22 things that we want to prioritize
Yeah,
for
yeah.
next year.
Right.
It should go, I personally think, you guys should vote on it, you should do all those things, have that list, and then Martha and Roman
That-
need.
And you're
to
right, that's
discuss
the
it.
procedure.
Yeah.
It's not how you feel, that's the way it's
It
supposed
is
to
just
happen.
the way it goes.
And so the only way that our committees can operate in a transparent fashion for the town of Harwich is to do it that way. So if on your next agenda, you want to discuss topics for what you want to see Cranberry Valley's goals look like, I don't see a problem with that. I also, though, want to make sure that you're mindful that they could fly in the face of the director's goals of Cranberry Valley. And that's what the select board's for. It
Yeah.
rises to the select board, and we discuss it there in an open forum,
Yeah.
public meeting, to bring it right to the table.
Correct, and they have the final say. I mean, ultimately, yeah, because it goes through,
Because you'd be
Joe
asking
to the
about
select board.
policy, right? Probably. And policy, the only policy makers of this town is the select board. So it has to vote through the chair to me, and then I try to figure out whether or not it makes sense. You and I would have that conversation. And then it would either rise or not rise to the level of a meeting with the select board.
one quick sec,
Yeah,
sorry,
sure.
Carol.
No.
One, if it's done right,
Mhm.
one of the things that will have gone better than has gone better in past years will that you guys will know the answer to, like, if you put Ford's list and you say, these are our top 2 priorities, and Roman says, great, but we can only do one, and he can explain why, or we're gonna do 1 in 18, because of his expertise, he feels like that's better, but he can at least explain that. So to me, you get at least closure. You may not like the answer, because I've lived with plenty of answers in the finance committee I didn't like, but you may not like it, but at least you should get an explanation that helps close the loop on it. And you can keep it on the list and bring it up the next year or whatever. But to me, that should avoid all the conflict, if you will, of people arguing, and you didn't tell me that, and I didn't know that, and whatever. That's what, to me, would be a proper process for the committee, or it would work well.
I can't call on you.
Yeah, Martha, you gotta.
Martha, you gotta call on your people there.
And again, I go back to, I guess what Michelle was talking about earlier. If we're going to come up with any sort of recommendations to Roman and on policy and membership and rates, et cetera, we just, in order to fill our charter requirements, which as defined said the goal is to break even, we need, I'm not saying that we can't go over, but in order to break even, you would think that you'd start with revenue forecast being equal to expense forecast. And if there's a difference between the two, you can attack it in one of 2 ways or both ways. Increase expenses by doing more things, spending more money on the golf course, or decrease revenue forecast by maybe limiting the number of out-of-town memberships that we afford, or reducing the rates to town residents, or on the annual, or any combination thereof. If we know,
I know you can't.
if we know that, well, you know, really, that's the minimum goal, is break even, but really, we'd like to use this revenue opportunity for the town in order to help facilitate other needs, like schools never have enough money every year. So be it. But also, you can also publicly say to the taxpayers, this is what we're doing. I play in the sweeps every week. I play with different people, constantly asked or hear different opinions. Some people say, geez, we think that the golf course is losing money for the town, and the taxpayers are subsidizing the golf course. There's others who say, no, we think the golf course is making a surplus of $500,000. Just getting the right information to people. I would have no problems whatsoever as a taxpayer and a member of this committee when asked that question on the golf course, saying, you're absolute, no. The reality is, we gave $400,000 to the school department last year because of the surplus. That's what you're paying for. Isn't that a good, positive thing that we want to tell?
So,
Carol, did you have something
Well,
you want to?
I'm getting a little bit confused with part of our conversation. We're talking about rates and fees, and we're talking about policies, we're talking about our role with Roman, how we engage through our chair. And this, it kind of gets into my topic because it's all blended. When I heard what Michelle wanted to put on the agenda, I thought, oh, yeah, that fits exactly into what I wanted to talk about. And it is about our policies that we recommend to you to have as our policies. You tell us, I assume, if we come to you and say, we would like to have this as our policy, and you say, yes, you can, then how do we operate?
I don't understand.
All right,
think
or
I
let me,
do.
can I just?
I think
yeah.
I understand.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
listening, I'm trying.
All right, so here are the two main paragraphs we are operating in, and we know these, we've heard them. Committee shall recommend governing policies related to the maintenance and operation of the municipal golf course for consideration by the Board of Selectmen, now known as the Select Board. Okay. All right, and it goes on to say, the Director of Golf Operations or employee having the general powers of supervision of the golf course shall be under the day-to-day supervision of the town administrator within the scope of the general policy and direction established by the golf committee. What exactly are those general policies?
Yes.
And how is it established and communicated?
I think I understand.
I have no clue.
Can I say
Karen?
one thing,
Well, that was the
please?
question we asked at the last meeting.
Yeah, we have, but
We asked that
no-
question at the last meeting, and we were told
There's confusion. It goes back
nothing.
to the charge.
Right, and that's what,
That's exactly what I was going
Right,
to say.
go ahead.
So we agree that what you're describing there is accurate in terms of the confusion that brings to the table. I agree. I don't understand the last line, and I don't want to try and dissect it because you're not going to get it right, because we don't even know what right is or what somebody intended. What you're describing is the role of this particular committee. It needs to be defined and written in a way that everybody can understand it when they pick up the charter. That is crystal clear. The charter does, the golf committee can do this, that's and even to Martha's point, it could go even, the chair can do this, the vice chair can do this, you can do this, and then the general members can do whatever. You gotta work with Sandy or whoever it is from the charter to write what you want, or what you want you should agree as a committee, right? So you might want to have a working session on what you want to present to Sandy or to that charter. It has to be a working session, just like this, on video, all that stuff, otherwise you break all kinds of rules.
Right.
And then bring it to that charter meeting.
Oh, so that's very interesting, because I thought you were saying to us, Jeff, no, we have to bring our policies recommend our policies to you, and you approve them or you don't approve them, and then we could get to
He
work.
can't approve them.
Well, who
He
knows?
takes
He
them
would
to
help you
the
refine
select
it.
board.
He could help you refine
Yeah,
it, right?
my job is
Is-
to take a phone call from the chair.
Yeah.
And the first question I'm gonna ask is, did your committee vote on this?
Yeah.
We'll just take one policy, and I'm not gonna make one up, right?
Right.
But we'll take a policy. You all talked about it at an agended meeting like we're having right now. You, Madam Chair, says all in favor, and all in favor to bring this policy recommendation to the select board. All in favor, yes? Madam Chair calls me or sends me an email and says, I would like to have this put on the agenda. 9 out of 10 times, it's gonna go on the agenda. Maybe 10 out of 10 times.
It might go via the charter committee, like, they may say, well, let's go there first and then let's bring it, whatever.
It very well may, but it's
It's
all gonna end up at the select board. And,
Yes.
right, and then what ends up happening is the select board has the public discussion of whether or not Roman feels like it's an important policy change. Or maybe Roman says, I don't want it, and here's why. These are all the things that then the select board takes into account, and then weighs in, and then we vote on what you voted on.
So, for example, I said, could this be one? The committee shall advise the select board on rates and fees. Is that a policy? What is a policy?
Right.
I mean, I think,
So
I
that
don't
is,
know if it's just me.
Yeah.
that is a policy, and the only board that can change that policy that's existing, right? Because you have
We
rates
don't
and
have any
fees now.
policies.
You have rates and fees now, right?
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
we've been doing
Yes, there
that.
are rates and
Rates and
fees.
fees.
There are
Yes,
rates
there are
and fees,
rates
they're
and
published,
fees.
I've seen them, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
If you
Yes.
want those changed, the only way to get that done is to request your committee to vote on it. And if you say yes and yes and yes and no and no and no and no, it does not come forward to the select board. If you all say yes, or the majority,
Majority,
then it goes through Martha to me as your liaison, and then I will bring it to the select board. And then the select board will determine whether or not that policy gets changed.
Does it go through you, does it go through Roman?
Roman will be involved.
I
But
just
the
want to make sure
chair-
everybody's understanding that.
We're
that-
only advisory.
The chair, you are absolutely right, and the chair can, what I would suggest is the chair would go to Roman
Yes.
first before the chair comes to me and says, what do you think about this?
Right.
Yeah,
And
you're
then Roman
aligned.
gives you his reasons why, yay or nay, and then it becomes the decision of the committee to bring it forward or not. I think what, the best question this committee, through the chair, can ask Roman is, what can we assist you with? Because there are things that I can promise you, he would love to have your input on. But it seems like he's working over here, you all are working over here, and then it's gonna be like a, hey, here's what we wanna try, and that's the way it should not be. Committees should be asking their directors,
That's what it's come to, Jeff.
what can we assist you with? And then, hey, by the way, we also have an idea as a committee, we voted on it last night, what do you think about moving the T markers back 10 feet? I'm just coming up with something, right? And that seems like that might have not been a good one.
Let's not go there.
I got that. I don't know the history on that, but I got some interesting looks, and nothing over here, but anyway. I will say, I think just procedurally, that's how it has to go. And you know, I know we made ground last time, and clearly you've all been thinking about it since the last time I was here. Bless you.
Oh, thank
But that's the way it's gonna work the best. And you know, I am a board member at a private golf course on Cape Cod. What a difference.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Not really. It's the same, but it's what a difference. The board does everything.
Yeah.
And then we direct our head pro, who you know very well, what we just decided.
And that had come up before, and some people who were on the board, this committee before,
Mhm.
were members of private courses, so
Mhm.
they had a different perspective,
It's
which didn't align with
it's
a
exactly the opposite.
public. Yeah,
It
so, right,
could-
like,
It
this-
could not be more opposite than how this needs to operate. But at the end of the day, the goal is to provide an incredible golf course, check. Great member experience, check. Great guest experience, check. Now, the cool thing I'm hearing tonight is about overflow, and I kind of think I know what you mean. But that would be something that I think, as a committee with your director, you all could make that an agenda item. Have your committee discuss what they think would be the right, I'm not telling you what to do, of course, it's a suggestion, what the committee thinks we should do for what is it called? Overflows. And that could be something you all could deliberate on. Bring it to Roman by way of Madam Chair after a vote, and then Roman would think about it.
You
I
can have, just quickly, Carol, one quick thing. You can have working sessions as an agenda item. Like, they don't have to all be, I have to have the answer. Like, we
Right.
used to, in the finance committee, we would do, when we wanted to have a working session, because you have to publicize everything, we would want to set people's expectation. Don't come in thinking you're gonna get all the answers. You guys, and you might say in that working session, we have no public comment, like you won't let anybody from the public talk because all you're doing is a working session. And it's really, if you're gonna take feedback, maybe you take it offline from somebody in the public. But my point is that you have the ability to use some of your time as working sessions. It doesn't all have to be a push of finality, like finished stuff.
So I do have one question of you. We are making recommendations in certain areas, some of them budgetary rates and fees, perhaps infrastructure of the course itself. But what right do we have to request data through the chair of Roman, and what obligation does he have to share that
That's a
data back?
great question,
question, yeah.
great question. And I'm gonna make it with a point, it's very clear. You all, I would say, have the ability to vote on what you want and through Madam Chair, she'll bring it to me, and then it will then be determined if what you're asking for flies in the face of the charter or doesn't. Flies in the face of your charge, or it doesn't. You do not have the right to request any financial anything from Roman. You just don't. That's
So in any way,
through Martha
right,
to me, and then I'll run it up the flagpole and see what we get. That's the procedure, right? Just like I can't go to Roman and tell Roman to do anything. Roman reports to the town administrator, not me. So I can't tell Roman, hey, I can't go to Roman and say I want financial information. He's gonna look at me and go, what?
and so is that you personally, Jeff, or is that you and the rest of the select board? I'm just thinking of timing of all of this. If we're supposed to be reviewing
Mm-hmm.
stuff before September, and we have a month to do it, quickly can we get it? So
Sure.
every piece of financial request through Martha goes to
Me.
you, and then you to the select board, or?
No, I may be able to provide
Okay.
that for you. It really does depend on what you're asking for.
Okay.
I can't hypothesize on what you're asking for. If you want 2023-24 budget, of course. Of course.
So, excuse me, theoretically, the information Roman gave us was, we were inappropriate to ask him for that?
I don't know what you asked them.
And how it got to him.
I don't know how you did it. I don't, but kind of probably yes. Yeah,
Yeah, so
kind of probably
if
yes.
everybody was going to him randomly, or when you.
No, we.
No, we're not doing
No,
that.
no, not now. In the past, before this committee was formed, if some people were going to him directly that weren't the chair, I would say that was.
What prompted you to send us that financial data this week?
I was asked. I was asked by Martha, right?
Okay.
Because it was on the agenda.
And then I requested that if we are to talk about it or understand it, if we could get it a little bit in advance, more than one day before. Am I allowed to ask Martha? Is Martha?
Absolutely are,
Yes.
right? You absolutely are, 100%. And then it's up to Madam Chair to determine whether or not it should have been voted on, or if your request can be a standalone, or there's a lot to it.
Karen?
There's no limitation to how many meetings you can have. And what I'm getting at is if you have a month, say 2 months, whatever it is, to get ready for the next budget cycle and you want to go through, because I wrote down a bunch of things, like if you want to have a working meeting on rates, on what projects do we want to do, on membership, on current status of active projects that were already approved at town meeting, whatever it is you want to have a working meeting on, you can meet every single day if you wanted and had the time. You're not limited, you just have to follow the process and get them set up. You are not limited to one meeting a month and doing stuff. You can't meet separately, you all know that. So my point being is that even if you're not gonna use the meetings, if you set up 2 meetings a week for the next 4 weeks, and you get halfway through and you go, oh, we already achieved what we wanted to achieve in these 4 weeks, then you cancel the meetings. But my point is you have options for getting more done in a short time.
Don't all meetings have to have some type of an agenda?
They all have to follow
That-
exactly what you do
okay.
here.
That
Notice.
and it has to be in at a certain time.
Yep.
You know, there are guidelines.
Yes. So it puts more of a burden on you or your new
Clerk.
On
per
your
clerk. So if you want to meet every day,
just
Steve has to
resigned.
figure it out.
Who just
No,
resigned.
but my point is, you have the ability to do more than a once-a-month meeting. That's usually a readout.
The problem is, though, again, we're still missing the key piece that's
Steve,
overriding
I'm
all
gonna
of it.
ask, okay?
Yeah,
I
Jeff's
can't
got
keep
it.
going down this circular loop with you.
Okay.
I'm going to go and ask what this committee is entitled to receive. That's my question.
And what balance, and what was the budget? Break even means,
Right,
because you have to
Right.
know what it includes, so that you know
right.
what number you're working with.
Yeah, sure. I understand your question, and respectfully, I will go and try to get you that answer tomorrow.
Okay.
And then I will bring it by way of Madam Chair, and then Madam Chair will do
Chair
her
of the
thing.
committee.
You will do your thing. And, I just absolutely want to make it clear from my end that, we have to keep Roman in mind by not asking him things that put him in a position where he's just like, oh my God, this is my committee, I should, it does need procedure.
And one of the reasons that I keep harping on this is, I pity poor Roman, because he's in a terrible spot.
He doesn't need to be.
He's got a budget that he's gonna be measured against. His ability to be able to operate
I have faith
a
in
golf
Roman.
course on a $1.7 million budget a year.
I have
in
faith
today's
in Roman.
times.
Yeah.
But he also has a conflicting revenue forecast that he's done,
He's got plenty.
that he's gonna be judged against as well. I mean,
He's got plenty of
if Roman collectively comes up with a revenue forecast for 2.2, 2.3 million, and all of a sudden we're midway into the season and he's running at a rate 30% below that, he's gonna be judged harshly on a lack of his ability to meet that revenue forecast, just as harshly as if he was spending
If I-
30% over
If I
budget.
may, Madam Chair,
Yes.
that would be something, I love how you're stepping up and coming to bat for Roman, but if Roman feels like he needs something adjusted, to be heard, to be different, Roman can go to the TA
Yeah.
and say, I'm having a problem with this procedure. I don't think it's for your committee
Right.
to bring up how Roman may or may not be feeling.
And how he's measured, like, that's just
That's
his
the-
job.
that's
and
his
he's
job.
TA,
So I
and he
think I-
reports to TA. It's just
I
his
think
job.
that
But it's pretty
conversation needs
unfair
to.
to have somebody judged at both ends,
Point taken. Can we leave it there?
okay?
Thank you.
I think the most challenging thing, Jeff, is looking on the past couple of years and the number of projects that Roman had presented to the committee. And please, I mean, I know we got new members on this committee, and the amount of time that we spent reviewing those materials and information. And then all of a sudden, the world caved in on the golf committee. We got our hands slapped. Everything was taken away from us, which I have brought back on the agenda. Things that are important, that we should be doing something about them. And how are we going to go about this in a way that is open and productive for the club and for the town?
So thank you for your information. I don't know exactly what happened to the golf committee back then. I can only hope that moving forward, this kind of dialogue can help alleviate what you're talking about.
I hope so.
Okay, I tell my two boys, my two little 7 and 5-year-old, I tell them I'm like bumper guards in a bowling alley, right? I'm gonna nudge you here and I'm gonna nudge you there. I'm gonna try to make sure that this committee's charge gets met, number one, and number two, that what you're spending your time on is gonna be worthwhile to everybody. I don't want anybody to be wasting their time. And that was one of the things I first said to you all when I sat before you with Don Howell. So I said, look, I don't know if you were going like out of your lane a little bit, or a lot, or way too, I don't know. But I'm gonna try to help keep this committee on track by just being there for you, just informing you. If you have a question, you know, I called, I left a voicemail on your phone, you went to
Right.
France, I haven't got a call back yet, but whenever, you have my number now.
You will.
You know what, I prefer not to. But if you ever have a question,
Right.
just pick up the phone. And I'm not saying you didn't have that before, I'm just saying that you have that now. And I'm gonna do the best I can to help this committee. I'm gonna have Roman's back, I'm gonna have everybody, this is for everybody.
So
Please.
one of the things I think that would be helpful through Martha and through Roman is a more frequent communication experience, so that she then can communicate to us. That's the only way we can get information on what is happening on the course. Sometimes it's embarrassing to find something happened and you are a golf committee member and you had no clue that this happened. We can alleviate all of that if Roman could call Martha and say, hey, Martha, the air conditioning broke and I just wanted you to know and here's what we're doing. Because chances are we're gonna be out on the golf course and look like idiots, not knowing that anything happened. And I just think that's a really good way of fostering our collegial support of Roman and Roman trusting us as well.
But to your, I think that's a good idea in theory, but in practicality, there are things that Roman will deem necessary for the committee to hear, but not everything. He's the one charged and being paid for the operation and the oversight and the day-to-day running of that fantastic course. If you just keep reminding yourselves that you're not supposed to be updated on everything that's going wrong, advisory board for when he wants to talk about overflow. Hey, bounce it around your committee, right? That's what this committee is going to be best suited for.
Okay, the reverse,
That's
Jeff,
not
though.
policy setting,
No, but there's a lot of other things
policy recommending.
but your scope in your charge is not just setting policy. your scope and your charge
Operations and maintenance.
is operations and maintenance, but I can promise you that if every single time something happened in the golf course and you all got calls through Madam Chair, you wouldn't.
Of
I'm not
course we
really
don't.
asking that, Jeff. I'm just asking about substantial things that happen on the course that just it's a matter of professional integrity and being collegial with one another so that we're able to support him and people know that he is working with us. And that's as valuable to him as it is to us. And could we create a policy that somewhat it may be vague, but it gets to something like that?
So I love this. Discuss it with your committee, put it on a piece of paper, vote on it, bring it to Madam Chair. Madam Chair will call me and say, I would like this put on an agenda at one of the select board meetings. And then 5 of us will hear it, and you'll get your votes.
So that's what I thought I was saying to you. I didn't say it well, evidently, in the very beginning, and I thought you said to me, no, that's not how you create a policy.
Exactly how you create a policy. And if I was confusing, I apologize. But the only way a policy can be changed is if you all vote on it, it goes to Madam Chair to come to me, and then I bring it to the select board.
And that's inclusive of this guy over
That already includes him.
And Jeff, just a clarification, when you bring it to the select board, will the Madam Chair be present in case there are any questions on the policy, or is it self?
Anyone can. Public comment, that's exactly the point of the select board meeting is you all, I gotta be careful, I don't think you all can be there because that might turn into something else, but
Well, they can invite the
They can
chair,
we can
and you
invite the
can all
chair.
be in the audience, but
Yep.
you may not be able to speak.
can't speak, right.
But you can
So-
come and
But that's
listen.
the procedure.
Confused you because I was trying to say, I don't think we have one policy, and you said, yes, you do, you have rates and fees. Well, okay, but I don't know of any other policies that
You
we
don't
have.
have policies, right? What you have is a way the golf course operates.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I guess, where I fell down, is if, let me try it this way. If you wanted to, what's the youngest a person can join Cranberry Valley?
I believe it's, gosh, off the top of my head, I don't even know, Jeff. I think it's like, I think a
13?
junior member can be 13. Yeah,
Okay,
12 is-
let's assume a junior member is 13 years old and they can join as a standalone. We'll just use this as an example, and you wanted to make it 10, right? That would be a policy change.
Right.
It's not your policy, it's the golf course's policy, right? So you would then deliberate, vote, and if you all say, I want it to be, we all vote yay, that 10 years old is the right age, through Madam Chair to me, I put it on the agenda, and then the select board votes on it. That's what I was referring to in terms of policy, right? Rates and fees are also Cranberry Valley's, it's their policy. There's probably a dozen other I could come up with if I thought about it, but
Yeah, it's so hard because I am trying to read exactly what was written in the charter under the scope of general policy and direction established by the golf committee, and it kind of doesn't mean that.
Well,
I
so-
can't wait to sit.
Yeah, that needs to change. That whole
I-
thing needs to change.
I can't wait to sit in on the meeting with you in charter bylaw review, because this is the crux of where the confusion comes in. I mean,
There's other committees too that are having the same challenges.
Oh, yeah.
And they are looking, this is an opportunity, the fact that they've approved the money to support the charter revamp, because the charter in general has, not all, I mean, a few areas, maybe several areas that need to be improved for this very reason.
exactly right. Exactly right.
So I'm not
No,
exactly.
you're not. You're.
So you're not, yeah, you're not.
You're perfect.
that's-
Perfect.
You're
Doing-
saying what needs to happen.
Absolutely. Cool.
Thank you. So what's our next step?
That's the question.
Okay, we have comparison of rates and membership information.
Well, I guess if we
You're
want
only
to
on-
try to
you're only on item 4 on the
conclude
agenda.
this section, then, I mean, I guess in somewhat of a working meeting format, you know, we have the information that Roman shared. We also had some information that Mark shared that I think is very similar in terms of at least the visibility we have to where our rates are and the difference that we have in rates between residents and non-residents. So Cranberry Valley is charging a resident $860. And Dennis is $875. We see Captains and Yarmouth and Barnstable are all above $1,200 for residents. Roman, I guess just one question so that we know we're comparing apples to apples. So Dennis is 36 holes?
Alice is
Yes.
36.
Dennis is 36, and which one else?
They're all 36.
They're all 36.
No, yeah.
Captains
Yarmouth
is
has
27 or
45.
36?
Yarmouth has 45.
Yeah,
Yarmouth says 45. Okay.
45.
So,
They're all 36.
and which of those courses, Roman, if you know, have capped non-resident membership?
You know, I'm not exactly sure. I don't think any are this year. I know the Dennis
Captains.
Captains, yeah.
Captains
The
is
Dennis
capped.
and Captains
170
both
people.
alternated years capping, so I'm not sure where we currently stand. I don't want to give you bad information. I know Captains and the Dennis course is capped and then uncapped. I'm not sure where they stand now.
They are capped.
They're not always
Captains
here.
is capped.
Or do you think they are this year?
They-
I think they've capped it this year.
Yep.
They have, I just talked to someone who recently
Okay.
became a member.
They just reopened Dennis. That was capped last year, and I don't know if it was 2 years, but they just opened it back up. Captains is capped. They took in 20 new members this year.
Yep.
So they're,
Residents only, I believe, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
But they have wait lists too.
They have 170 people on a wait list.
So I guess to some extent then it's still capped because they're not
Oh, yeah.
taking everybody. They
It's
have,
capped.
they have a fixed membership and they're
For both
operating.
residents and non-residents, it's capped?
For non-residents,
Just for non-residents, it's capped.
yeah.
I don't think we've ever thought about it, have we?
Capping for non-residents?
Yeah.
Well, and you know, this is where I think, I think Jeff's suggestion of asking Roman, what are your perspectives on membership? Do you think we should have a cap? Do you think, for non-residents, do you think, right now, I think, just from looking at the T sheet, in season, the course is at 100% capacity, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much, so.
Pretty much, yeah. So what we've handled in the past, we've handled, instead of the cap, we've handled, by increase of resident pass holder tee times. You know, those courses that cap are really firm at the 50-50 distribution. The Captains even is 50-50, then they're like 1 out of every 70 times on the other golf courses is pass holder time. So that's how they handle it. They keep the block available for greens fees payers intact but cap the non-residents.
Yeah. So I guess when you're 50-50, but on 36 holes, you still have a greater allocation to residents than 70% on 18 holes. And Yarmouth, these numbers are correct, Yarmouth with membership of only 800. Captains at a membership similar to Cranberry Valley, Barnstable 1,400, Dennis 1,600. So there's more members, but also significantly more opportunity. That members still have a greater opportunity on those courses to pay.
Definitely.
At Dennis, they're paying similar, but at Captains, Yarmouth, and Barnstable, town members are paying more. So,
Yeah,
I can go do the math and we can talk about it if you, just to like get into very specific, like the number of holes per day that are allocated to residents versus, or members versus non-members. And we don't have visibility to their membership for residents versus non, I don't think at those
Well, we do.
courses.
I think Didn't you
We do
supply
have-
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. We do have that data.
Oh, I thought that was charges. I just thought I saw
Those
total
are
number of,
charges.
total number of members we don't
Right,
have
We don't have that broken down.
broken down. So,
Roman does in his report for us.
yep. But Ron, when you think about the prices that other courses are charging and to their residents in this $1,200-1,300 range versus our $860, and recognizing they maybe have 2 times as many holes to play, but they're at 50/50, we're at 70. So their members have a greater opportunity to play than our members do, and we're charging even our non-residents less than Barnstable and Yarmouth and Captains are charging their residents. Do you think that the way our rates are set is in the right ballpark? Do you think we should be looking at doing something different?
Well, so when I made my presentation on rates and fees to the select board last year, I mean, that's usually one of the points I make, is I think that because our residents, annual pass holders, have the hardest time getting tea times, have the least access, I think we should be the lowest fee in general. That's what I presented to the select board. I do think that we should continue pursuing whether it's capping or increasing the non-resident. I think that's been a little bit out of whack. And so we've increased $100 a year for the past 3 or 4 years, 3 years. I think that should definitely continue increasing, and there should be some increased separation between the non-resident and the resident rate, yeah.
What are your thoughts on a cap for non-residents?
Well, I think that it would have a lot of effects on it. I mean, I think that you'd have a lot of our league players are from non-residents. So I think you'd have an effect on our leagues pretty strongly.
But if we capped at the current number
Yeah.
and grandfathered the people that are pre-existing members and said, okay, we've got these non-residents at X number, they're already members, they can renew, but we don't go beyond where we are today unless somebody doesn't renew, and then we start the wait list. So if whatever the number of prepaid non-resident members is today, we set that as the max, as the cap. So everybody that's currently a member gets to play in the leagues, and then they make a decision next year as to whether or not they want to renew. And if we have 20 people that don't want to renew, we take the first 20 people that aren't currently non-resident members, and they can, but we just keep it where it is today.
I think it does.
Have you considered, Roman,
Yeah.
raising our rates and
Yeah.
then increasing the percentage of time that we were allowed to play?
Well, yeah, of course, I've considered it. I think that, as municipal golf course, I wouldn't want to see us outpricing any residents. I mean, I think it's more important in general, municipal golf courses to have access for more people and not more access for fewer people. I wouldn't want to outprice the community,
Residents,
but the
though.
residents, yeah.
Yeah.
She was asking about non-residents.
Well, yeah, it still comes back to goals, but.
I would like to have the meeting come to some closure. We're not going to get to everything on the agenda because the video is going to end at 6 o'clock. And so,
I think on this,
is there any input from the committee about having another meeting before
Absolutely.
August 15th?
I would suggest, Madam Chair, you have a meeting before the August 8th Charter Committee
All right,
with an intent of trying to formulate how we'd want to recommend.
okay.
To
So
get
I'm,
more clarity on the charter.
so I'm going to review the agenda that we have presently and make it succinct, and then, so I have the time to present it downtown and have it on the calendar.
doesn't,
Is Tuesday
Does
okay
Steve do that?
for people?
Next
you
Tuesday?
can, you can do that.
Oh, they'll love seeing me coming in.
That's my cue.
See you, Jeff.
Are you asking
Thank you,
about next
Jeff.
Tuesday,
Thanks,
Martha?
Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Next Tuesday?
I'll shoot for it.
That works for me.
What is
Okay.
that, what is the, oh,
26th.
what is that date?
When do you have to
The
have it?
25th.
25th.
Do you have to have a week's notice?
No, I have to have it in by Thursday. So tomorrow.
Does it have to be on a Tuesday? Or
No,
is Monday possible or not?
I have to look at, I don't even have my.
That's the
calendar in
24th.
front of
Then we
me.
can't get the agenda out in time for Monday.
No, I'll never. It has to have so many days.
The one day I cannot is the 26th, but that's just me.
26th is a
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can do.
It's a
You can do
Wednesday?
So you could do Tuesday,
Tuesday.
the 25th.
Yes, kind of. Yes, I can do it.
Or Thursday?
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute. No, you have personal things that are going on at that time, so.
For 2 days.
And what days are those? Monday and
25th
Tuesday?
26th.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Tuesday and Wednesday?
27th?
Well, if I get the
Well, Thursday, the
agenda in
27th.
tomorrow, I can have it Monday.
I can
I'll
do
be
the
at the-
27th.
Is it calendar days or business days you have to have it in by? Because that will only be 2 business days, Thursday, Friday.
I think it's business days. I mean, yeah, business days.
We can do Thursday, I can do Thursday.
I can do
Thursday, the
Thursday.
27th?
How about Thursday?
Yeah, it's good.
Let's do that.
Thursday's great.
What day is that?
Thursday, okay?
27th.
27th.
Paul,
We have to be, I could do Monday or Tuesday.
not Thursday?
No.
You need a quorum, you don't need 100% attendance, you need a quorum.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
if it's,
I
if it
mean, I know
works
you're
best
doing
for the
what you're
group.
aiming for, but good luck with that.
Are we expecting our director of golf to be present for this?
No.
No.
Okay. Let's just be clear on that.
He's got real work to do.
He'll meet with me first. All right, so we'll do it Monday, correct? Or Thursday? Do I,
Thursday is
Monday?
great for me, but
Monday, everybody can be there.
If Thursday's better for most, then do whatever's best for the committee.
You know, Monday's
It
the
doesn't-
manhole's 9, but
I-
I can cancel that.
you don't mind.
Do whatever you
I
need to
move
do.
that we
Thursday?
set our meeting on Thursday.
Oh, Thursday? All right,
The objective of this meeting is,
One item would be the formulating how we'd like to
Amend the
recommend,
charter.
or recommend the amendments to the golf committee charter.
Yep.
Or they call it.
okay, yep.
That'd
I
be
think
one item
that's-
I think we want
yep.
to talk about.
Yep.
I don't know
Yes.
if there's others you want to talk about. I mean, we didn't cover all the items in today's agenda.
Yep.
I don't know whether we want to.
I think without Roman, it would be difficult to do. I mean, we can maybe spend a little time as a committee just batting some thoughts around, and then at the
Right.
following meeting
And
with
then
Roman, we
I
can
could
then-
meet with him.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's right. We can then say, let's go deeper on some of these ideas.
All right. So Thursday, 4 o'clock here.
Thursday, 4 o'clock.
Do we get this room or do we get the little
Who
A little
knows?
warmer.
See what's available.
I'll see what room is available.
Steve will see what.
Yeah,
Steve?
they'll end up putting this in the parking lot if I go inside.
All right,
Can I ask a quick question?
Have we,
yes.
we haven't concluded the meeting yet, have we?
No,
Okay.
And just be careful about quick questions that are,
This is just an administrative thing, and I guess I should know now, because I'm the clerk.
yes.
In the Cape Cod Chronicle, they have a little section every week that shows the meetings. The golf committee doesn't show up there. And I love the fact that the Ladies Golf Association is great. You actually come, you participate, we get public feedback, it's wonderful. I'd love to get more public feedback, but I don't think most of the public is even
Well,
aware.
Who puts that
I
in the
have no
Chronicle?
idea, but it's a-
Because
You can, you can sign up on the town website to get notification for all the committee meetings that are, you get
But
every
if it's in the
notice.
Chronicle, it should be
But
there.
that's a pull. What I'm saying is a push is, it's in the Chronicle.
Yeah.
There's a section by town, and it lists the FinCom meetings
All
and
right,
the
well,
planning
Mr.
board meetings.
I suggest Mr. Clerk look into this.
Won't work.
Okay, I'll figure it.
Ask Emily, the town clerk. I'm sure
Okay.
she does it, yeah.
Okay,
Clerk to clerk,
yeah. I mean, it would just be nice if the public knew that
definitely.
when we're meeting.
well, it's on the webpage.
But again, they have to
Yeah.
go look at it.
Right.
People read the Chronicle and they.
Or you
they
can
would
get
see it.
notified if you sign up on the town website. It's a push.
All right. Someone.
Move we
wanna move?
adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Martha.